September 22, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the chart looked like, or what I had. Well, this is what the chart looked like, and this is how I marked it up. You can look down at the descriptions below. You can see where I thought I saw setups as well as where I actually took my trades. There was only one piece of economic data that came out around 6:45, which is about right here, Pacific Standard, which was the flash manufacturing PMI. And as you can see, it didn't really cause the market to sell off or rally too much. I took two trades today. Unfortunately, both lost. And after I took the second loss, I decided I wasn't quite in tune with the market. So I was just going to not take any real trades afterwards. And I just kind of sat and watched. So this is how I drew it out. This is the pre-market highs as well as the pre-market lows. My overall opinion today was trading was a little tricky for me. So this highlighted line, this is the EMA, the 21 EMA. And as you can see, prices both broke above and below, and it was just very choppy. And I have all these marked up, but I am doubtful that they were actually good setups, except for maybe this one. And then a couple of these, one of these two, I'll get to it, I thought was a good setup, but then it ended up not working. So it was a little trickier for me today. And unfortunately, I didn't think the trading was that easy, at least for my experience level. So I'm going to go into the trades right now. This is the pre-market highs and pre-market lows. Just kind of go in here. There are some second entries, but as you can see, things are very choppy. There's like second entries everywhere that you can argue for. But since a lot of the candles were just kind of side by side, it was very tight trading. So if I was trading in the pre-market, I would be, and this was just like regular time frame instead of long waits before each candle closed. It wasn't very easy. So then when the market opened, it looked like it hit a pre-market high and it started selling off. And I saw it make two clean legs up. It almost made a measured move, but it did get stopped out here, or it got rejected here, which became the pre-market high. It started trading down through this green channel, which I don't really see, well, much of anything trade-wise. Then prices continue chopping up. It chops around, oscillates. As I said, here you can make an argument, okay, all over today, you could say, okay, this is a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but then a lot of the times it was almost setups or it was just too congested. Look at these side-by-side candles. Everything, it went all the way up, came back all the way down. It's spanning pretty much the entire length of the candles. So that's very hard to trade and hard to know exactly which direction it's going to go. So then prices continue chopping. I don't really like anything that I see. And at this point, I don't have this orange channel yet. And I am suspecting it's in a trading range, but it wasn't a clean trading range because the highs didn't make this consistent highs and the lows didn't make consistent lows. So this is actually the first setup that I saw, and I actually took this trade. The new low, it's a first entry short, pulls back, creates a second entry short. Now the second entry short, I'm watching, I'm seeing that it broke below, so it confirmed the second entry short. And I'm thinking, okay, this is breaking above the EMA. I'm thinking this is going to be a failed second entry short. The idea that there's some kind of resistance here, I had in the back of my mind, but I noticed it broke out here. So I was thinking it came up, it was consolidating. There could be another leg down, but it might be another leg up. So I was watching carefully, not willing to take a short yet because it's above the EMA. And here, when it flashed up, it started chopping. I thought, okay, I have a failed second entry short. I see one big leg going up right here. And at the time, I was thinking it's probably going to push up to make a second leg, not thinking or considering that this possible resistance is occurring right here. So I took my trade one tick above, it chopped around, and then it stopped me out here because I kept my stop one tick below. And as you can see, it kind of fooled me. So it went up and then it came back down. I thought the EMA was holding prices. The signal bar for this failure looked pretty nice because it definitely created a failure in the second entry short. In hindsight, I think I was entering right into this possible resistance of this possible trading range. This is the midline of the pre-market, and this is the potential top of this range. But I wasn't considering that at the time, and I was just seeing a potential move back up. So I got trapped, and I unfortunately should have waited for probably a higher low confirmation. And as you can see, it never really shows up. Then prices continue chopping down. At this point, I do draw this trend line as a potential resistance. I wasn't sure where the bottom of the channel could have been because I first had it here, and I thought maybe it's here to prevent the overshoot, then here again. But that I finally just decided to keep it here and treat this as a small little overshoot. So this is a new low. It's a first entry short, pulls up. It looks like it's being resisted by the EMA. It's going with trend at this moment. It forms this candle, and I'm thinking, oh, definitely there's a second entry short here. I like this setup. If the next candle breaks below this guy, I'm going to enter. This next candle actually breaks below. I enter at the low of this red signal bar, and it was kind of at the toward the end of the life of the candle. It went all the way back up and closed. So my entry is right here. It's hard to see, but it's this magenta triangle right here. And it closed right at the EMA, and my stop is up here. And at the time, I thought this is a good signal bar. It closed below the EMA. I'm looking for a test of this low. This broke out and made one attempt down, and I'm thinking it's going to make a second attempt down. I did keep in mind that there was a potential uptrend right here, but I'm thinking also what's going for me is this big orange channel is pushing down. Now, I think in hindsight, I should have waited for this trigger bar to have closed. In other words, not take it during the life of this candle, but to wait for it to close. And then I would have seen it kind of close up here. And that probably would have given me a little bit of pause to maybe wait for a confirmation. But the thing that was giving me belief that it was going lower is it's making lower highs every time and lower lows. So I'm thinking, well, prices is going to come back down, test this low. As you can see, it flashes up. It just traps me and takes me out just immediately. And that was kind of a heartbreak because if I had waited for this to close, I probably would have waited and said, wait for a lower high, ideally somewhere around here, and close below the EMA, but I didn't. I jumped in early, flashed up, and I got trapped. At this point, I already took 2 trades that were losing, and I said, okay, well, I don't feel in tune with the market today. I need to follow my rules, which is 2 losses in a row. I need to stop before I lose any more money. But I just continue watching now. So the next, going forward, all this trade setups that I saw, I didn't act on it. Even if I wanted to, I just had to stay disciplined. The prices continue moving, chops up. It goes into this range now. So it looks like it's a reversal. And what's confusing is before it's below the EMA, now it's above the EMA. So I'm thinking, okay, we're probably ranging today. It goes up, it chops through. It's kind of developing these handles are about 1 to 2 points big, but they're very much side by side. So I didn't see any good setups that I felt safe taking. And I do see this second entry short. So it's a new low. First entry short comes all the way up, second entry short. Now, here you wouldn't think to go short, or at least I didn't, because it's a very strong bar. And at the time, I had this uptrend, this trend line here, and I actually had this a little bit lower right here. So I saw this as a gigantic overshoot. So yes, you see an overshoot, you think it could probably go short, but I was just not sure. I wanted to keep waiting to see what would happen. Flashes down, comes down, you have a confirmed second entry short. It looks like it's bouncing off of this top of the pre, or not top of the pre, but top of this phantom resistance, which acted as a support now, but I am not convinced yet. It's also right at the EMA, but the EMA is flattening, and the EMA isn't really acting as a reliable participant in the trading here. So I did see this failed second entry short potentially setting up. You have a failed second entry short now, so it confirms, right? But the way I had this channel drawn, I'm thinking I'm going to run out of room before I hit here. Ideally, it's going to come back up to here. But if that were the case, then I would think my channel would be up here. And at that time, I wasn't willing to take that yet. So imagine this dotted midline is where my original channel was, and then later I dragged it up here. So I felt like there wasn't enough room to chop through to give me a safe scalp. So when it was down here, I also saw this as an overshoot. It could be one attempt up, then it comes back down and breaks through here. So it could actually end up being a trap if I went long, even though it was a failed second entry short here. So I had to kind of wait for a confirmation that this reversal going up is happening. Looking for a higher low, but you don't get a higher low until like up here, but that's way too far from the trade now. So chops, and then at this point I do decide, okay, this might be where the top of the range is. I might have an overshoot here and might come back and break through. So this is a new high, first entry long, second entry long. The second entry long, it's a good signal bar. It bounced right off this confirmed lower trend line support. The thing I don't like about this trade, it could, since it's coming from a failed breakout, it could be, also this is the pre-market high. It's a fail breakout in two regards. It's an overshoot and a fail breakout of this. So it looks like it's coming back into range. And then maybe the range is a little bit tighter where my cursor is. But for sure, it has an overshoot. And I'm thinking it might break out to this side. And this could be considered one leg instead of one push up and getting ready for a second push. And it did close right at the EMA though. But as I said, the day already is telling me the EMA isn't quite as reliable right now to use as a key entry point unless everything is lining up. And unfortunately, right now, things aren't fully lining up. Also, this is an inside bar, which gives me a little more caution. So I just had to wait. Then it clearly makes if you did take this trade, you would have gotten a 1 point scalp. It pushes right against this pre-market high. Then I see a higher low. It is confirming the bottom of this trend line going up. Now this higher low, it's nice that it also bounces off the EMA. The thing is, I'm unsure if this overshoot here is still in play, if it's going to come down, make one push up, and then make a second break here. So I wasn't sure. I had to wait. It's also running right against the pre-market high. It chops around. So if you did take an entry, I don't know exactly where you would have taken it, but let's say you took it one tick above here. Looks like you would not have gotten out yet. Then this candle would have gotten you out. But I also saw a failed second entry short. So it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, failure. It didn't fail here yet, technically, and it fails right here. So when you have the confirmed failure, there's a good signal bar for the failure. It did close outside the pre-market highs, as well as the EMA. The problem is if you go on a long entry, you're running into a possible resistance of this previous high. On top of that, excuse me, possible resistance of the, excuse me. So yeah, going into possible resistance and its potential of the smaller range. So it's already broken out, made one push down, make a second push down. I wasn't 100% sure, so I had to kind of leave it alone. Chops around, and then after seeing these candles, look how doji they are. I was pretty happy I didn't take a trade because it would have been nerve-wracking to see all this print. Even if you did get your quick scalp, they're just telling you there's a lot of uncertainty right now. You don't know if it's wants to break back in or continue outwards. So it pushes out, it keeps chopping, and now it's outside the pre-market, but this feels congested. It finally breaks down through. I draw this trend line as well as a matching trend line down here. So I think I'm in a channel right now. I see one leg down, push up, a second leg down. It hits this double bottom right here. So I'm wondering if I'm inside this range created by these blue lines. So I'm just watching and waiting. I don't see, technically you have a visual, first entry long, second entry long. Here, you can make the argument that you're going to have like a bounce, maybe a triple test if you counted this one, but I don't like counting this one because it's just part of this big move. So I would only count this as 1, 2. You don't really quite have a third touch, so you don't really quite have a confirmed support line yet. So it is chopping, and I do see a failed second entry short. First entry short, pulls back, second entry short. This failed second entry short is confirmed right here, but you don't have enough room to hit a quick scalp before you hit this potential resistance here. Top of that, I saw this as a break, made one attempt up. It could pull back and make a second attempt, but I wasn't sure if it was going to pull back because it's pretty close to the high, so it could come up to here and bounce, come back down on this possible range. But also test the lows of this small channel here. But this small channel is a little wide. I'm not that impressed or sure of it because I only had one touch, two touch. You could argue for a third confirmation, but it actually broke out, but it did hold the support pretty well down on this side. So I had to keep waiting. It flashes up, keeps chopping, hits a consolidation area. Here, it made a measured move. So from here, the pre-market lows went up on this one big leg, pulls back, and then made a second leg up, and it hit this measured move. So just something I noticed, but there was no setup that I felt comfortable taking. Flashes down. This is where I thought I saw a pretty decent setup. It's a new high. First entry long, pulls back. So here it makes a second entry long, and when it closes like this, I'm thinking definitely there is a failed second entry long, very likely about to set up. And I like the fact that, it kind of double bottomed here, but it hit the EMA and then it rejected downwards. So it had like a good signal bar. The thing that was giving me pause was it's inside, excuse me, I wasn't sure. Let me see. Let me look at my notes. Okay, yes. So it's new high, first entry long, second entry long, rejected by the EMA. So yes, this is actually a possible trade I think I would have tried to take because it's pushing down. I'm thinking there's enough room for a scalp. And as you can see, it would have worked. I would have made sure I had it enough to get out before it hit this potential support of the pre-market. Then prices top down, it follows this trend channel pretty nicely. I saw this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short, and it looks like it's going to be a second entry short failure. It's a good signal bar. The thing that I don't like is it pushed back up to the EMA, but it didn't break through the EMA. So it looked like this channel came down. It made one push up, pulls back, making a second push up. And if this thing fails in the next one, it could come down to try to test this localized low. So that was giving me pause. So I said, okay, I should wait for a higher low confirmation to trust that this is actually pushing up because this failed second entry short is still below the EMA. But what is throwing me for a loop is the EMA, as I said, throughout the day hasn't been well respected by the price action. It's just chopping above and below. So when to use the EMA as a factor in the trading or not for a setup, I wasn't 100% sure of. Also at the time, I had my trading channel a little bit closer to here. So you're pushing against the EMA and you're pushing against this potential resistance. So that just gave me pause. I had to wait for a higher low confirmation. Flashes through, you don't get a higher low till about here, but this is a terrible signal bar, but it keeps going. And at this point, I do drag it up to about right here. And then you don't really get a second entry. You do have a second entry here, but this signal bar doesn't look that great. You're coming up against a localized high. Just a lot of things are telling me this isn't a good clean setup. Prices continue moving. It breaks through. It falls into this downward channel. And I take a pause here. So this is like chopping left and right. And I'm just looking back and I'm zooming out and I look at this. I notice that this is a very, very choppy day. This is by no means an easy day to trade, at least for me. I already got trapped twice. I wasn't taking any more trades, but I was just wondering, are the setups I'm seeing actually good, clean setups? Because I am doubtful at this point, just because the complexity of the price action is having a lot of fake outs. Things are just happening, or it's coming up against these potential resistance lines or support lines. It's kind of giving me conflicting ideas. I'm going to chalk it up definitely to my inexperience, because if I've seen more days like this, I would have a better intuition of what's happening. But when I see something like this, I am going to remember it and just remember that next time I see a day like this, I have to be extra cautious. Granted, when you're only trading right here, and let's say the day is only progressed up to say 7:05 Pacific Standard, you don't know that this is going to happen yet. But definitely if I didn't take any trades and I was watching up to here, I would be very cautious at this point, maybe scratch the day as a no trade day. So then prices then continue moving. It doesn't quite get to the EMA, falls down, falls into another consolidation area, breaks out. This is the first time it breaches the EMA in quite a while. Then it looks like it's chopping. It consolidates. This is just a congestion area. Look at these candles. It doesn't look very clean. It breaks down. It follows this shortened trend channel coming down. It's just very ugly, very choppy trading right now. You do have a new low, first entry short, you technically have a second entry short, but this is no real basis to take a trade because you don't really have any other key entry point. You're just basing it off of second entry, but second entries are everywhere. You need a little bit more than just a second entry. So prices in, continue chopping. I see one leg pull back. I'm thinking there might be a second leg. It doesn't quite happen. This is the second leg, but it doesn't make the measured move. I do draw this trend line coming down, but I couldn't make a channel fit very clean because I was debating whether this is something here, because it does hit a few times, but there's no confirmation. So I'm just watching, and I also noticed it bounces off a potential support area here. So here it looks like it's not respecting this channel coming down anymore. EMA is offering no help whatsoever. I saw a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Again, the second entry short's a reasonably good signal bar. It's also very low risk, but even if it's low risk, you don't want to take a low probability trade, even though it's like, well, it's only going to be about 1 point of risk, or actually five ticks. Actually, it's a little bit less. Let me pull that back up. It's only about 3 ticks. So you could take a gamble, but why take a gamble when the day has already been telling you today is a choppy, very tricky day? So I saw it. I didn't want to take it at all just because I just was not in tune with the market. Then it creates this big consolidation area. It flashes up, and I do see a second entry long here, new high, first entry long, second entry long. The second entry long, although it's there, it's not a very good setup because it's an inside bar. When this flashes up, you're far from the EMA. I was thinking there's some kind of resistance here because I already had 2 confirmations, and when it flashed up, I wasn't sure to trust it or it could be a fail breakout because I was thinking maybe there's a wider trading range, but the trading range, it's not super clean. So I decided just to sit it out. Prices continue moving up. Then I draw this channel first through the top, and I try to match it on the bottom. So you only have 2 confirmations at the bottom and several confirmations at the top. So definitely you'd want to, when it comes to here, you think, okay, there might be a short setup. But what's conflicting me, giving me conflicting ideas is I'm going to try to take a short on an obviously uptrend. So that'd be counter trend. So it's just gives you pause. Ideally, you'd have a more confirmed support where it touches a bunch of times in the bottom, and the top you wouldn't worry as much. So that when prices come back to the support, you'll feel more confident because you'd be going with trend. Then prices continue chopping, consolidates, it just looks ugly. I saw a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. So this second entry long, I saw it, and I was wondering, okay, it's bouncing off this potential trend channel. It's not bouncing off the potential trend channel. It's bouncing off the potential range that we see here. But you're already moved past it almost to the top. It's bouncing off the EMA, but it's already no room to scalp out here. So to try to take this, it would feel risky. And after this bar closed, because this is the signal bar, you wouldn't have, this bar doesn't prep you to get ready to take a trade. And then when this one forms, the second entry is confirmed, but now the trigger bar is closed. You don't have much room to try to scalp out. On top of that, this is the first break, so I would expect to test the new high, but this break is a horizontal break. I want a more deliberate, more clean break and pullback, but it's more like a sideways break that broke the channel due to time, not due to deliberate price action, if that makes any sense. So I just wasn't feeling that it was a reliable setup. And prices continue moving up. So first entry short, second entry short. This technically has a failed second entry long. There's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. You technically have a failed second entry short here. But then you also have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, and then failure on the second entry long. And I thought, okay, this could be a fail breakout and it's coming through. It might push through to the other side. It did close below the EMA, but it just feels congested. So I didn't feel this is a good trade. Also, if I did take a short, believing the failed second entry long failed, there's not that much room to scalp out before you hit this obvious support line where it touched 5 candles already. Breaks through, it starts chopping and sliding down. And here it's just getting too late in the day. Things look congested. I just didn't like what I saw. I did see a second entry short here, but for the same reason, it's too far from the EMA. It did bounce off and get rejected by this downward yellow channel, but that's still just not good enough reason. It's just too late in the day. And if I didn't take these two losses, I still wouldn't have liked this trade at all, just because it feels like watching the entire price action for the day, it was just too choppy. It was just like a day full of tricky setups, a lot of traps. Price is going to continue down. It kind of falls. It looks like it falls into this trading range consolidation area. This is just the last 10 minutes as usual. It gets pretty choppy and it goes into the close. So it was a little bit tougher than usual day. These setups, I marked them, but I wouldn't have very high confidence in them had I still been trading. Took two losses on two trades that I thought were decent setups, but apparently I was wrong. Doesn't necessarily mean I think that they were necessarily bad setups, but they are probably just setups that maybe other times would have worked out. So hopefully that was helpful.